What is going on, AWGFAM? Welcome back to the channel, our new and improved channel. It's taking some getting used to, that's for sure. This didn't used to be all up in my grill, but I have listened to the sound quality, and it is night and day in difference in quality of sound. So I'm just gonna have to live with it. Get the new computer done. That's all done. So did my stream last night. That went well. I did a gaming stream last night. That went very well. Had a few hiccups, obviously, how every stream goes, audio issues. So that got handled. And then look forward to a live stream later this week. So that will be coming up here in the very near future. We will be starting to do live reaction stream. So make sure you guys look out for that info. I'll be posting that on the good old Instagram. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. And we're gonna, if you guys haven't, let me make an introduction to this man here. This is MrBallen. And if you look him up on YouTube, Mr. Ballen. Mr. Ballen. John Ballen, if you ever do see this, thank you for your service, sir. He is an ex-Navy SEAL, one of those, badass little frog men that not little though, none of them are fucking little, so. But he's one of them old school badass frog men. So, without further ado, let's jump into this.
Today we're going to bring back a popular series where we look at 3 progressively more disturbing stories, and at the end of each of them I will play the real footage that goes with them. But before we get into those stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right channel, because that's all we do, and we upload 3, 4, even 5 times every week. So if that's of interest to you, please put Icy Hot on the like button's deodorant,
and just so you guys know,
then encourage them to pet your very friendly
this
dog.
is number 8.
Except your dog isn't friendly, it's incredibly mean,
I
and
couldn't
it bites
stop.
anyone or anything that comes
near
it.
I made
also,
myself stop so I could do this
and turn
for
on all
you guys.
notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. All right, let's
just
get
a heads
into
up.
today's stories.
He will reel you in. He will.
In February of 2019, a young man named Austin and his family moved to Houston, Texas. As soon as they arrived and they had their stuff pulled off the vehicles, Austin went out looking for a job. Because he was brand new to the area and his family was really tight on cash, he started looking for jobs that people didn't necessarily want, the types of jobs that would hire him really quickly. And luckily, 5 minutes down the road from his house was a gas station that was looking for someone to take the dreaded 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift. Austin went over there, he applied, and was quickly given the job, and quickly realized how miserable it is to sleep all day and work all night. 3 months later, in May, Austin woke up one evening
if you guys haven't ever experienced
and he
that,
realized the power was out. So he left
horrible.
his bedroom and headed downstairs where his father was, and he asked him, how long has the power been out? And his dad told him that basically as soon as Austin had come home from his last shift, it had gone out, and the power company says it's going to be a while before it comes back on again. Austin stepped outside onto his front porch underneath the overhang, and it was pouring rain. And in fact, it had been raining when he had come back from his last shift, and looking out at his front yard and the streets, which were all flooded, it was clear it had just not stopped raining. And he's looking around, and all the houses are completely dark, the streetlights are even dark, so this power outage is pretty massive. Austin wasn't sure if he was going to need to go into work that day because of the flooding and the power outage, so he called his manager and he asked her, and she would say that, yes, we do need you to come in, but not for your normal job because the store is without power like everyone else. What we want you to do is just sit inside the store with the doors locked to prevent looting. Feeling a little let down that he still had to work, Austin grabbed a cup of coffee, put on his rain boots and his rain jacket, and ran out to his car. The drive to work was surreal.
You better
Not
have
only
a gun.
was it totally dark because there was
I ain't doing it
basically
without
no
a gun.
streetlights on and all the houses are dark. But as Austin was driving, the roads were flooded, but because there was no light, it was very difficult to gauge how deep these puddles were. And on the road, periodically, he would see cars that had miscalculated the depths of these puddles and clearly had gotten stuck, and the driver had just abandoned their vehicle. He described the scene as feeling like something out of a zombie apocalypse movie. Austin finally got to the gas station parking lot, which was slightly elevated, so there was a whole bunch of cars that had been left in the lot, presumably to avoid being flooded. And so he pulls into a spot and he sees his manager is in the store. She sees him. He hops out of the car. He runs up to the door. She unlocks it. She lets him in. She shuts it and locks it behind him. Austin had never been inside the store without power on, and he said what struck him as soon as he walked in was not just that it was totally dark, but it was totally quiet. All the drink machines and the cooler and all the kind of ambient sounds were all gone, and it was just totally quiet. He turned to his manager, who was using her phone as a flashlight, and she said to him, "Look, there's not much for you to do here, so keep the doors shut. Let me know if you need anything, and if the power comes back on again, open the store as usual." She handed him the keys and left out the front door. He locked the door behind her and then walked over to one of the tables inside, up against the side of the store. When he sat down, he got out his phone to start watching some YouTube videos to kill the time, but he quickly saw that there was no internet service. He figured, well, I guess the power outage must have affected internet providers. And so now, totally bored without the internet, he got up and got a couple energy drinks, and he sat down at this table and just smashed energy drinks and watched the rain. And after about an hour of doing that, he was still really bored, and he thought, I've always wanted to do vlogging, and so why not start vlogging right now? So he gets his phone out and he props it up on the table and he starts recording himself. And so for the next couple of hours, Austin talked into his camera about the storm, about the power outage, about sports, about movies, about all sorts of things. His intent was not really to create a concise vlog so much as to just stay awake doing something. And it was working. He enjoyed doing it. And then around 3 a.m., as he's sitting there talking to his camera, you hear the unmistakable sound of someone banging really hard on the inside of the coolers on the other side of the store. And Austin immediately stops talking and turns his head and looks. And he hears it again. Very distinct pounding coming from the other side of the building. At this point, Austin is still looking. He's not even flinching. He's just staring in the direction of the sound. And then he turns back to the camera when he hears a third sound that doesn't sound like pounding, but it sounds like something else coming from that side of the room. And after that third sound, he's had enough. He gets up, he walks out of the store, locks it behind him, and gets in his car. He doesn't go back inside the store for the rest of his shift, and when his manager shows up, he honks the horn to get her to come over. And she's like, "What are you doing out here? Why aren't you in the store like you're supposed to be?" And he just shows her the video. As she's watching the video, she's clearly startled by the footage, and at the end of it, she confesses to Austin that lately, employees have been telling her they're hearing weird banging sounds coming from the cooler, and that she had gone in there to check if maybe there was an animal or just something that was causing the sound, and she said she couldn't find it. After this, Austin's manager went inside the store and looked around, and there was no one inside, there was no one in the cooler, and she reviewed the footage of inside and outside the store over the past 12 to 24 hours, and the only people that had come near the store were her and Austin. Austin quit his job there 2 weeks later. Here is some of the footage of Austin inside the gas station.
It is pouring. All day it's been pouring. So I went outside to go check, and our street was flooded. And in front of his street.
Nope. 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 Absolutely not. Nope. It's time. Let's go ahead and raise that weapon.
Something is moving around in the cooler.
Jesus. This is so creepy.
Screw all that noise.
Oh shit. Oh shit. That's a beautiful reaction. Oh my god, I had to pause it right here. Oh god. Oh, that's beautiful. I honestly, I don't know what I would do if I don't have a rifle or a pistol in that situation. I'm not hanging around to find out. Not. I'm not. I'm just. I'm out. I'm not even. I'm not exploring. I'm not finding out nothing. I'm out. I'd rather not know. Just after listening to all of the MrBallen stories, I don't want to know. I'm just leaving. Bye. I'm out. I'm not that curious. I don't. This isn't worth my life. It's not. I'd rather go sit in my fucking car. I get it.
White Island in New Zealand is one of the world's most accessible volcanoes, with only a third of its cone protruding from the water and one of its walls having fallen in, creating a sort of natural drawbridge. All it takes is a 90-minute boat ride or a 20-minute helicopter ride, and you could be stepping off directly into the crater. The island has a definite menace to it.
I know
the
what this
acrid
one
air
is.
and the acid lake inside of an inner depression, and the abandoned sulfur mine where
I
in
remember when this
1914,
happened.
10 men were swept away to their deaths by a mud avalanche. When this mine closed in the 1930s, the island was largely forgotten about for several decades until the 1990s when adventure tourism really started to heat up around the globe, and locals in New Zealand started taking advantage by offering boat rides and plane rides out to this kind of...
Now, I'm going to pause it here because this is something that I was just talking about very recently. You know, we have a lot of really smart people out there who are absolute morons because you meddle with things that you shouldn't be touching. You shouldn't be a part of. Leave it the fuck alone. Stop playing with black holes on planet Earth. Please, I like this place. I like being here, and I don't need my reality fucked with. So please stop with that shit. Please stop with your little god power function. Y'all want to play with god powers, and you need to stop. Because god powers cannot be put back in the bottle. When you open Pandora's box, you cannot close it. So let's stop trying to find the box, and let's keep it shut, because in not doing that, bad things happen. Just let me point it out now. Because this is that kind of bad shit that we're about to see here. Because I do remember, I don't remember if it's, I don't know if it's what's about to happen here, but I do remember when this volcano went off with people there. So, please, don't play the game. If there's a high likelihood that some dumb shit could go down, stay away. Do yourself the favor.
otherworldly volcano island, and soon guidebooks were calling a tour of White Island an unmissable trip. Once on the island, tourists were taken on a very established route that started on the southern end of the island on a jetty. They'd walk up a dirt path, they'd go directly through the crater down to this inner depression where they could look over at this acid lake, and then they'd turn around and they'd walk right back, passing by the abandoned sulfur mine on their way back to the jetty. Tourists of all ages could complete this route in about an hour and a half. This volcano is very closely monitored by a geological monitoring service called GeoNet. Every day, they rate the danger this island presents on a 0 to 5 scale, and tours are only allowed to take place if it's 0, 1, or 2. Anything above 2 and it's too dangerous. On November 19th, 2019, GeoNet rated the danger of the island as a 2, saying that it looks like, eruptive activity is more likely, but still safe for tourism. Now, make no mistake, anybody that went out to White Island was made fully aware of the risks of going out to the island, including that rating system. Hey, today's a 2, so it's on the upper bounds of what's acceptable, but that was part of the thrill of...
Actually, he did make a note of this in the description section. Not everybody completely understood what level 2 meant. So I just want to point that out so everybody understood that. Not everybody here had an understanding of what that meant.
Of going out to White Island. It was like you're brushing up with death, but it feels really safe because the guides are out there with you and they're kind of joking about how it might erupt any day. You could be enveloped in an acid mist and obliterated by rocks, and people thought that was like kind of fun. And so when the rating was bumped up to a 2, suddenly people were more inclined to go. It was more exhilarating. Fast forward a few weeks to December 9th, the GeoNet rating is still at a 2, and 5 groups of tourists headed out that morning for White Island. You had 3 big groups that were in 3 separate boats, and you had 2 smaller groups that were in their own helicopter. They made their way out and they arrived around 1 p.m. and they began staggering tours up the path, down into the crater, down to the acid lake, and then back out again. By about 2 p.m., two of the large groups that came in on boats had finished their tour, got back on their boats, and were ferrying around just offshore, taking pictures of the island, and one of the two helicopter groups had already boarded their helicopter and taken off. At 2:09 p.m., 47 tourists and guides were still on the island. 26 were down near the jetty waiting to board their boat to leave.
You gotta pay me a
21
goddamn
were
fortune
still
to do
deep
some
inside
dumb
of
shit
the
like
crater.
that.
1 minute later, at 2:10 p.m., one of the cameras operated by GeoNet to measure volcanic activity on the island snapped this picture of the 21 people down in the crater. Now, the image is not clear enough to make out individuals, but you can clearly see body shapes, and it looks like they are relaxed, walking in a straight line, making their way back to the jetty. For all but 3 of them, this would be the final picture of them taken alive. 1 minute later, at 2:11 p.m., the volcano erupted, consuming almost everyone inside of the crater, sending steam and ash and acidic mist 2 miles into the air, followed immediately by another explosion that went horizontally, firing rocks and more acid and boiling steam in all directions. Of the 47 people that were still on the island when it erupted, 19 died instantly and 2 more would succumb to their injuries later. These survivors required so many skin grafts that New Zealand put out a global order for 33.8 square meters, the equivalent of 16 bodies worth. One tourist named Alessandro Kaufman was on White Island that day. He was one of the tourists that was in one of the 5 groups of people that went out. He was in one of the boats, and he was one of the last people to get off right before it erupted, literally minutes before. And he was filming as his boat was loitering just offshore, waiting for the last 47 people to leave the island. Here's what he shot.
Só embarcar.
Good morning.
That's such a bad idea. Such a bad idea. There's a reason why I don't like the open water. You think a fucking volcano craters any better? If you really think a volcano is inactive, you've lost your mind.
Iniciamos às 10, são quase 2 horas da tarde, finalizando aqui. É isso, agora partiu pro continente.
Yep, everybody get the fuck inside. You breathe that shit in, you die. Sulfuric acid in your lungs, that'll fucking kill you. Are they gonna be okay? Are you fucking retarded? My bad, but Jesus. What do you think is gonna happen? Like he said. They needed how many skin grafts? Are they gonna be okay? Most of them should be presumed dead, because I'm sorry, but you're not going to be okay in a situation like that. And if it's really a question that's coming out of your mouth, well, I don't know what to tell you. When a volcano erupts, if you're anywhere near the epicenter, like, I would say, dependent on the severity of the eruption, if you are within a quarter mile of that eruption, you're probably going to die. By the ash, or potentially the magma, because of how far it is being launched into the air. It is going to come splashing down on top of you. Like I said, it depends on the severity of the eruption, but that eruption, when you're walking on top of a volcano and it goes off, do not expect to still be around afterwards. And after all those skin grafts, that's from the sulfuric acid, the steam, all that kind of heat, it melts your skin like it's nothing. This is like a gelatin substance. You take a lighter or anything to it, any type of actual heat, it's melting like it's nothing, like it doesn't even exist. And then you add sulfuric acid on top of it. Good luck, because you're probably not going to live. you probably won't even survive the skin grafting that is necessary. It's that I would never put myself in that situation to have to deal with that. So, uh, you kind of get what you paid for there.
On July 29th, 2008, a little after midnight, a 40-year-old man named Vince Lee boarded a Greyhound bus bound for Winnipeg, Canada, using a fake name. He had left his house abruptly without telling his wife where he was going, but he left her a note, which she would later give to police, and the note just said, "I'm gone, don't look for me, I wish you were happy." Vince rode the bus for 5.5 hours without sleeping and got off when it stopped in Erickson. And the bus driver would say to him, "Hey, this is not your stop, you want to get off at Winnipeg." And Vince apparently just did not turn around, didn't react to him, didn't even seem to hear him, and just calmly walked away. And so the driver eventually just kind of shrugged his shoulders, closed the doors, and headed off. Shortly after the bus left, Vince was spotted sitting on a nearby bench holding a sign that said "Laptop for sale, $600. And over the course of the rest of that day and all night, Vince was spotted by multiple people, not moving, not sleeping, sitting upright, looking straight out, not even blinking. The next day, on July 30th, a 15-year-old boy would approach Vince and offer to buy his laptop for $60. And Vince agreed, gave him the laptop for $60. Once the kid walked off with his laptop, Vince got up, went behind a nearby store, and burned some of his belongings before going back to the bus stop he had gotten off at the day before and waited for the bus. A little while later, at 5:55 p.m., Greyhound bus 1170 arrived at the Erickson bus stop, opened their doors, and Vince climbed on board and sat in one of the front seats. Sitting in one of the last seats in the bus was a 22-year-old father named Tim McLean, who had boarded the bus 5.5 hours earlier in Alberta, Canada, after a long stretch working at a carnival. When he got on board, he was exhausted, so he went to the back of the bus, put his headphones in, leaned his head against the glass, and had fallen asleep. And when Vince got on board, that's what Tim was doing. He was still sleeping in the back. As soon as the bus left the Erickson bus stop, some of the 36 other passengers on board would say Vince was acting very strange. He was looking down and muttering to himself, and at one point Vince got up and he was pacing up and down the aisle towards the front of the bus. When the bus made a quick stop, Vince stood up, moved to the very back of the bus, and sat directly next to Tim in the same seat. Tim woke up, turned over, looked at Vince, gave him a quick smile, and then rolled back over and fell asleep, unfazed. The bus started moving again, and then a little while later, at 8:30 p.m., Vince stood up and went to the bathroom in the back of the bus. And some of the other passengers noticed he had a large knife in a sheath on his belt. 5 minutes later, Tim is still fast asleep against the window. Vince comes out of the bathroom and he goes back into his seat, but instead of sitting down, he puts his right knee on his seat and plants his left foot on the ground right in front of his seat, so he's facing Tim. He pulls his knife out of the sheath and drives it into Tim's neck. Tim woke up and he was trying to fight him off of him and he was screaming for help, but Vince was robotic and unemotional, just continuously attacking Tim until he went still. Other passengers were half asleep when this started, and so it took a minute before it registered with everyone what was going on, and quickly people started screaming, and then the bus driver pulled over, and people were clamoring to get out of the bus. Once off the bus, a couple of the male passengers decided they had to go back in and try to save Tim, but when they walked up the steps and looked down the aisle, they saw Vince had pulled Tim out into the aisle. Vince's back was to the front of the bus, and they could tell that Tim's head was no longer on his body. At this point, Vince whipped his head around and looked at the three men that had come on the bus, and he jumped up and charged them with the knife, at which point the three men retreated and ran out of the bus. And luckily, one of them was the driver, who was able to initiate the security system on the bus that made it immobile, so Vince couldn't drive it away, and it shut permanently the doors until you deactivated the security system. Vince tried to push the doors open, but he couldn't do it, so he went back up and continued to attack Tim's body. While waiting for the police to show up, horrified onlookers had to watch Vince as he continued to attack Tim, and in fact at one point Vince began eating Tim and actually held his body up to show them what he was doing. Finally, the police arrived, and after a standoff, Vince leapt out of one of the windows and was tased repeatedly and then arrested. Once in custody, he said he was sorry, but he also said the reason he did it was God was speaking to him while he was sitting on the bus, and he was instructing him that Tim was an alien who was going to attack him, and so he needed to go kill the alien to save the world. In a controversial turn of events, Vince Lee was found not criminally responsible for the death of Tim McLean, and so was not given jail time. He was sent to a treatment program that, after
Welcome
he finished,
to fucking
he was
Canada.
fully released. He was allowed to change his name. He has no restrictions. He has no supervision. He is a totally free man. Just minutes after Vince was apprehended by police, one of the passengers who had been sitting near Tim when the attack started gave an interview where he described what happened. Here are segments of his interview.
I was just reading a book. All of a sudden I heard a guy screaming. I turned around and the guy sitting right next beside me was standing up and stabbing another guy with a Rambo knife. Repeatedly. Everybody got off the bus. Me and a trucker that had stopped and the Greyhound driver ran up to the door to maybe see if the guy was still alive or we could help or something like that. And at that point, when we saw the head, we knew that the guy was dead. So then he saw us. He came back to the front of the bus, told the driver to shut the door. He pressed the button and the door shut. The three of us had weapons from the trucker's truck there, and we just stayed outside while he tried to get out the door. Telling him, no, stay put, stay there, don't try to come out. Some people were puking, some people were crying. The guy, he didn't care at all. He wasn't concerned with anybody but the guy that he stabbed was listening to his headphones and sleeping. I honestly don't think that the guy knew him at all. I think he was just really crazy.
So that's going to do it, guys. If you found the secret in today's episode, let us...
Jesus. Oh my God, man. My only... The problem I always have situations like that. Y'all said you had weapons. Why didn't you use them? I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand the fear, but if there were three of you and he ran at you with a knife and you had weapons, then why didn't you do anything? Or was it after the fact? You know, it could have been after the fact that they got the weapons. But for me personally, I don't get it. I don't understand. How are you going to watch something like that? Like, he was so still focused on what was happening. You had everybody on the bus. You had everybody. How many men were there on that bus? And I'm not trying to talk shit about the whole men and women thing, but I want to know how many men were on that bus. How many of you could have done something? And you didn't. You ran. You had no incline towards your fellow man. You took off. You left him to die. I'm sorry, I care too much about people to allow that. I will throw myself in the way. I don't want to see innocent people get hurt over absolutely nothing. And that'll never change. I don't get it. I don't, with that many people on the bus. Why? Fear does crazy things, and I know that. But I can't see something like that and not step in. I just can't. It's not in me. It's too horrible something to be happening for me to not do something. I don't know. But y'all have to let me know what you think. That's obviously getting a like from me. Like I said, make sure you guys go check him out. MrBallen. Awesome YouTube channel. Awesome guy. Like I said, also ex-Navy SEAL vet. Good dude. Definitely go check his stuff out for sure. But that'll do it for this one, guys. You let me know what you think in the comments. And I will see you in the next one. Love you, AWGFAM and my XMCFAM. I'm out.